Hello and welcome everybody to today's Investor Day presentation. It's now 2 o'clock on the 19th of October and we can start this event. We are broadcasting this presentation live and we will make it available on our website shortly after the presentations concludes. My name is Nicolas Serrandour and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Advanced Oncotherapy. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Steve Myers, Muataz Kamalawi and Jonathan Farr. Steve is a technical chairman and he has had a very long-standing career at CERN where he led the accelerators and technology group and then the medical applications group. At CERN, he led many complex projects, in fact, much more complex than the one we are working on at the moment, including the Large Hadron Collider, which is arguably the biggest experiment made by mankind to date. Muataz is a chief commercial officer and a president in the US. For 12 years, he led proton therapy business of Varian, a company that was recently acquired by Siemens for $16 billion. And before Varian, he had a number of different roles in the medtech industry, including at Philips. And finally, Jonathan is a chief clinical officer. Before joining us, he was chief of radiation physics at the St. Jude Children's Hospital, which is the world's first pediatric proton therapy center. He has also been involved with many other projects in proton therapy, so we are very fortunate to have him on board. In today's presentation, I will talk about the market dynamics. Steve will cover the machine, Jonathan the medical aspects, and then Muataz will provide an update on the commercial opportunity and business model. And to conclude, I will talk about the delivery and executions before we address your questions. Cancer is the second largest cause of death globally, with almost 10 million deaths per year. It's significantly more than what we observe in wars or transport accidents, for example. Cancer affects 1 in 2 people. In fact, over the 1-hour duration of this presentation, about 40 people in the UK will be diagnosed with cancer, and that number will be closer to 500 in China. So sadly, it's something we all have to live with, but fortunately, significant progress has been made in how to treat it. Indeed, today many cancers are being cured. If you look at the survival rate and how it has evolved over 40 years, you see that 60% of all cancers on average are being treated effectively. And if we look at a few indications, we see some terrific progress. For example, more than 90% of people with prostate cancer survive after 5 years. This progress translates in a survival rate that has doubled in the UK in the last 40 years. That said, 2 things must happen to increase survival. 1, the scientific and medical community must do better and more. And 2, the long-term quality of life must be preserved for patient survivors. If we're looking at the previous chart, you see that some cancers are still well below what is acceptable. If you take the cancer of lung, liver and pancreas together, the survival rate is less than 20%, and that represents 2.6 million patients per year. But as I said, the scientific and medical community needs to reduce the side effects and the long-term implications of cancer treatment. At least 1 in 4 have serious long-term complications. That's about 500,000 people just in the UK. And almost 1 in 4 people who had cancer cannot do any strong physical effort. Let's now look at the different treatment options, keeping in mind that very often they are combined to enhance the effectiveness of the treatments. You have 3 major modalities: surgery, medication, and radiation. Treatments are complex because as the tumor evolves, it can involve different organs. We're also seeing the developments of pharma or immunological agents which are improving the immune response of treatments, but oncologists need the full suite of modalities to effectively treat cancer. And in fact, much more is still to be done to improve the frontline therapies, which will be in particular more targeted and less invasive. And this is where proton therapy has a key role to play given its highly targeted approach. Now, if we are looking at radiotherapy as a way to treat cancer, more than 98% of it is delivered through X-ray machines. That's a technology introduced at the beginning of the last century and is used in up to 2/3 of the cancer cases in the US. The good news is that X-ray therapy is very well known and documented. But the bad news is that we have now reached a limit in terms of how to improve X-rays. So, how does X-ray therapy treat cancer? Essentially, it disrupts the DNA strands in cells such that cells which receive radiations will eventually die. The specificity of cancer is that cancerous cells do not have the same ability to repair as healthy tissues, and they also tend to grow more quickly. For these reasons, physicians deliver radiation over a period of time, often on a daily basis for a few weeks. And this allows healthy cells to recover, whilst cancerous cells will die through apoptosis. As a result, X-ray radiation therapy is a long journey for patients, requiring many visits to the hospital. So therefore, one of the most important challenges in radiotherapy is how to limit its impact on the healthy tissue surrounding the tumor. And on this new slide, I'm actually going to explain why. X-rays use particles called photons, which are the basic unit of light, and you can obviously see their impact after sunburn. They have an energy which can actually kill a tumor, but which will have side effects if you use this energy in the wrong place of the body. To illustrate this, let's assume the tumor is this orange shape you see. Before and after, you have healthy tissues. So if you can imagine that radiation is contained in a very small balloon that will cross your body, and then you pierce the balloon. So the balloon will deflate and release radiations which will not only hit the tumor itself, as required, but also hit the healthy tissue before and after the tumor. One of the most visible effects of radiations will be skin burn, which you can obviously see. But there are all the other effects within the body that you can't see and that can be much more damaging. Now, let's look at proton therapy as a radiation technology. This is using particles called protons instead of photons, and the use can save up to 60% of the healthy tissue surrounding the tumor. I'm now going to show you why based on the same analogy of a balloon. You have a tumor, and the radiation of the energy of protons remains in the balloon. As the balloon penetrates the body, most of the radiation stays within the balloon, and eventually it will burst, releasing most killing energy straight on the tumor on a specific spot called the Bragg peak. And after that burst, you have no more radiation, hence no more damage after the tumor. So in other words, protons have physical properties which are extremely helpful for cancer patients and young patients, with an efficacy that is similar to X-rays, but with a much more targeted approach. If we move from the underlying science to the market, we need to remember that proton therapy is not new. We have actually used it for 70 years or so. And if you look at the number of patients treated with proton therapy worldwide, you observe a dramatic surge over the last 10 to 15 years, and more than 200,000 patients have been treated to date. At the same time, the global capacity has increased from roughly 20,000 patients per year in 2012 to 80,000 patients, which is a fourfold increase in just 7 years. However, there are only 92 centers in the world delivering proton therapy. That corresponds to about 230 treatment rooms. But these 230 treatment rooms represent only 1.6% of the 14,000 X-ray machines used in the world. And what you see here on the right is the geographic location of the centers, with many being in the US and Japan for historic reasons. In terms of competition, you have a few companies involved in proton therapy, but in my opinion, the market is set to consolidate. And in fact, the recent acquisition of Varian is an example of that. These companies all use circular technology to accelerate protons, but we have the opportunity to bring to the market a different technology that will break the current status quo. Let's now look at whether the 92 centers I talked about, which exist today, are enough to meet the future demand for proton therapy. To do that, we have estimated the number of treatment rooms needed in 20 years' time, and we have assumed that only 50% of cancer patients will receive radiations, and that conservatively of those, 20% will receive proton therapy. This chart shows that almost 10,000 rooms will be required to meet the demand. That implies growth prospect close to 20% year on year for the next 20 years. What I'd like to do next is to show you where this growth is actually coming from. At the bottom, you have a number of rooms which are currently operational, and on the left axis, you have a number of new rooms needed to satisfy the need. And the size of the bubbles will represent how many cancer patients in the relevant countries. So if you take India as an example, there is a need of 600 rooms, which is about 60 times more what is available today. An interesting market is obviously the US, which has the biggest number of rooms, but this is still well below the market need. And in China, we are actually talking about numbers which are quite frankly difficult to imagine, and which are much more than the need in Europe. That's what we're actually going to see on the next slide. China provides a great opportunity for AVO. It's a market with 4.3 million new cancer patients per year. What does that mean? Well, as I said earlier, during this 1-hour presentation, there will be almost 500 additional people diagnosed with cancer in China. In addition, 2.9 million cancer patients in China will die each year. That's about 330 people during this 1-hour presentation. All of this translates into a need of more than 2,000 treatment rooms. That's why, in 2018, we signed a deal with RealCan, which is acting as a distributor in China. They have access to 42,000 healthcare providers, and some of them are now at different stages of discussions with us. So what is needed? We need to improve survival, quality of life, and make treatments more widely available. If we're looking at proton therapy, we need to improve the conformality of the treatment, meaning that the delivery of protons needs to match the irregular shape of a tumor. We also need to increase convenience for patients by reducing the number of hospital visits. Just as an illustration, if one block on the right of the slide represents a visit of a patient, then we are all working to have 5 visits per treatment course, and I'm convinced this will happen, which will be a great improvement compared to approximately 30 visits or more, which is often the case today. But the industry and patients also need something else. Tumors are moving during treatment, so we need machines which can better track tumors, and as they do so, they should deliver radiation. Let me show you an example. If you imagine a spot that contains millions of protons, and that's being represented here as a black dot, when the spot is actually on the tumor. That dot becomes red when the spot is at the wrong place, so essentially not on the tumor. Today, the machines can deliver 2 or 3 spots of protons every second. So when a tumor is moving, you do see red dots. But if you have a faster way of delivering the spot and changing the energy, then you only have black dots, and hence all the radiation you have planned ends up being on the tumor. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope I have provided a useful background on the market, and would like now to turn to Steve, who is going to spend a bit more time explaining the system itself.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Nicolas. Very interesting presentation. I'd now like to move on to accelerators. There are 2 types of circular accelerators presently in use for proton therapy. Various types of cyclotrons is one type, and synchrotrons is the other type. The cyclotron is a fixed energy accelerator and requires the use of energy reducing absorbers for treatment over the depth range of tumors. The synchrotron is capable of changing the beam energy on every cycle. For medical proton cyclotrons, the cycle time is typically 1 to 2 seconds. The current circular cyclotrons are large and heavy, up to 200 tons, and must be installed in 1 or 2 pieces. Due to this non-modularity, the buildings must be constructed around the installed circular accelerator. This construction constraint and the need for very large and movable radiation shielding implies that a large volume of material must be excavated. The pictures you see show the large amount of civil engineering required for the installation of a recent proton therapy centre in central London. The light linear accelerator, shown opposite, circumvents the disadvantages of the current circular accelerators by electronically controlling the beam output energy. The beam energy can be varied rapidly and with high precision between 70 and 230 MeV without the need of absorbers and without the need of the concomitant requirement for very thick, expensive shielding walls to shield from the radiation. The output energy can be varied digitally 200 times per second, which is more than 100 times faster than by using absorbers. This feature offers many clinical advantages and the possibility to treat many more cancer types, in particular treating moving organs. By design, light is highly modular, making it easier and less expensive to install and allowing installation into existing buildings. The energy of the proton beam, measured in mega electron volts, MeV, determines the depth at which the radiation is deposited. For treatment of a tumour with a depth range, variation of the beam energy is therefore indispensable. Current cyclotron accelerators for proton therapy produce beams at a fixed energy. Treatment of cancer tumours requires variable beam energies between 70 and 230 MeV. The cyclotron-based systems use absorbers to reduce the beam energy. The thickness of the absorber determines the amount of energy reduction. In practice, the absorber is usually a rotating disc which has various thicknesses and is placed at the output of the cyclotron. The major disadvantage is that the absorbers severely reduce the number of protons exiting at the reduced energy. For example, in reducing the energy from 230 to 70 MeV, less than 2% of the incident protons are available for treatment. The absorbed protons produce a large, undesirable radiation field, which requires thick shielding walls and significantly increases the construction costs. A second disadvantage is that due to the mechanical nature of the absorbers, the rate of change of beam energy is very limited. This is only made possible thanks to our outstanding manufacturing partners. We are working together on the design and the optimization features, including various ways to generate a faster production run rate going forward. VDL is one of the best manufacturers of its category, and we are lucky to count on their fantastic support. Gustav actually accepted to share a few words with us.
Hi, my name is Gustav Savaneye, and I'm a Senior Vice President of the VDL Group. VDL is one of the largest family-owned companies in Holland, with revenues of €6 billion in 2019. Under my responsibility, we manufacture high-precision parts and assemble and test modules and complete systems for different customers in different industries all over the world. We have been working with AVO for 5 years now and have developed a great understanding of the advantages of the light system and are fully behind their mission of democratizing proton therapy. We made significant investments in manufacturing competences and capabilities like CNC machining and vacuum bracing, which are required to meet the specifications and demand. We recently supported the company through a working capital facility of €20 million, which will help support the pipeline of the company and the manufacture of future machines. We work with very large organizations such as BMW Group and several players in the semiconductor area. And I can say that the caliber of the team and the processes AVO put in place to produce items in high demand are what you would expect in large, well-established organizations. So we are excited, and I want to thank the investors of AVO for their support, which I know comes with expectations. It is our role at VDL and AVO to ensure we meet these expectations. Thank you, and tot ziens in Eindhoven.
I'm now going to show you a video which highlights the manufacturability of the light system. The accelerating modules are primarily composed of individually dimensioned copper plates, facilitating fast, precise, and automatic manufacturing. The modularity of the design also permits simultaneous manufacturing at different locations around the world, allowing rapid ramp-up of production at short notice. In this video, you will see the powering system of the modules that requires a small footprint and has high electrical efficiency. After the video, I'm going to hand over to Jonathan, who's going to talk about the medical applications and the benefits of light. Thank you.
Advanced Oncotherapy's mission is to deliver superior clinical effectiveness and an outstanding patient experience, all at a competitive cost. With the light system, every cancer patient can now have access to proton therapy. Assembling the various parts of the RFQ requires brazing, welding and bolting using state-of-the-art computer-controlled machining tools that allow us to produce RFQs in significantly increased numbers. Once commissioned, our RFQs are very reliable and may be operated for several years without further adjustments. Protons are accelerated to their full energy in side-coupled drift tube linacs and coupled cavity linacs. These modules are primarily composed of individually dimensioned copper plates, which lend themselves to fast, precise manufacturing by our strategic partner, VDL ETG Precision. The assembly of the copper plates into accelerating tanks is a well-tried manufacturing process using conventional brazing techniques. The modularity of the accelerating modules allows simultaneous manufacturing at different locations in the world, and production therefore can easily be dramatically ramped up at short notice. Providing the acceleration capability to the structures are the RF power subsystems. Light is powered by high-energy pulsed power systems from Scandinova and Toshiba. Scandinova specializes in the development of solid-state controlled power systems which require 1/3 of the space and are 30% more efficient than those used in older technology, making the light system considerably smaller and more economical. Protons for everyone, not just the lucky few.
Thanks very much, Steve. As we are going to see in this section, for every one of the technical advantages of light just described, we also have a corresponding potential clinical advantage. As Steve mentioned, there are many technical benefits from using light, including the absence of absorbers, greater transmission efficiency, thinner shielding, and the smaller footprint, which have direct implications on the building cost and treatment cost. As Chief Clinical Officer, I'm going to focus on the medical aspects. From my perspective, the most important are the ability to change the energy of protons rapidly, the enhanced ability to treat more tumors, including moving targets, and the flash capability at all energies. The way light can do this is by providing greater accuracy for the proton beam to the cancer target. Unlike any other system, light doesn't contain any moving parts. This allows us to change the beam energy as fast as 200 times per second. For patients with moving targets, such as in the lung or liver, the light system is designed to stay on the target through the duration of the treatment, reducing the radiation dose for the healthy tissues. The proton spot size of our system is also many times smaller than other systems. We call this the mini beam. Mini beams allow the light system's treatments to be highly sculpted to convoluted tumor shapes. These images depict the advantages of mini beam proton therapy, which may permit higher daily doses. The image on the upper right shows how we can use proton mini beams that are spread far apart at the patient's surface, providing additional sparing of healthy brain tissue. The image on the bottom right is an example of radiosurgery applied to an abdominal treatment site, in this case bilateral neuroblastoma. In this example, the proton mini beams are capable of completely sparing the spinal cord and outlying kidneys. The image on the left depicts the potential reduction in treatment times for lung, breast, and prostate cancers when using higher daily doses. The clinical potential of the AVO light system often resonates in the cancer care community, in this case recently grabbing the attention of the elite Cleveland Clinic institution. The Cleveland Clinic is one of the top-ranked U.S. hospitals, and together with them we are investigating the potential superiority of light mini-beams over other modalities. Cleveland Clinic are performing comparative treatment planning exercises using the light treatment planning system, with AVO supporting the investigation with our latest light system and proton beam modeling. We expect to present the results next year at national and international conferences, as well as in peer-reviewed publications. Because proton therapy is more accurate than conventional treatment, it can be more sensitive to patient changes during treatment over days or weeks. The patient changes can be a result of weight loss or gain, swelling, as in the top right figure, or changes in their tumor volume. If the changes become significant enough to affect the treatment quality, as sometimes happens, the patient treatment plan must be modified or adapted. Light solves this by providing daily diagnostic quality CT scans that, together with our new Roundup clinical software, ideally provides adaptive, personalized proton therapy care. Our driving priority at AVO is to bring our first system into clinical use and certification. Additionally, as light is the new platform for proton and light ion therapy, we continue to develop plans for successive light releases. Because light was designed from the ground up, it frequently has advantages for developing new features that the legacy systems cannot match. Some of the planned developments include flash, which I will explain further in a minute, heavier ions including helium, improved targeting with proton imaging, and new indications such as atrial fibrillation and immune radiotherapy. These developments can serve to extend the versatility of light to new indications. Flash radiotherapy is trending to be the most exciting development for radiotherapy in the past 50 years. Flash, like the name, represents instantaneous radiotherapy treatment, a singular, complete treatment in less than half of a second. Conventional radiotherapy sessions are of many minutes of duration and repeated 25 to 30 times over 5 to 6 weeks. Preclinical studies have shown that flash has the same tumor-killing power as conventional treatments, but almost entirely spares normal tissue. The treatment of a first patient with flash radiotherapy was documented in 2019 as feasible and safe, with a favorable outcome both on normal skin and the tumor. Proton therapy is considered to be the best potential for flash, but legacy proton therapy systems are not expected to be able to produce flash dose rates to every site in the body. The flash limitation for cyclotrons is related to the thick energy absorbers required for their use. The energy absorbers reduce the cyclotron system output, as shown in the green curve, until it is less than 1% at low energy. Unlike legacy systems, light maintains its dose output at all needed clinical energies, as shown by the flat yellow line. This is due to the flash electronic energy changes that do not require absorbers. Single flash treatments with light may dramatically increase the number of patients treated in centers equipped with light systems. Using the body's immune defense system can be a powerful weapon against cancer. Immunotherapy is a form of the abscopal effect, where shrinkage of untreated tumors occurs concurrently with shrinkage of tumors within the scope of the localized treatment. Comparatively, immunotherapy has reduced effects from treatment, as shown in the right in blue, in comparison to other therapy types such as chemotherapy, as shown in the left in red. It is hypothesized that the ideal form of radiation-induced immunotherapy maximally activates the varied tumor-specific lymphocytes called T cells, making tumor cells more vulnerable to these, but minimally damages the existing lymphocytes. This relationship is shown in the top right figure, where proton therapy and flash maximally activate the tumor, shown in red, immune response while minimally damaging the normal tissues, shown in green. AVO believes that light mini-beam treatments can serve as the ideal driver for radiation-induced immunotherapy. This is shown by example in the bottom left figures, where a soft tissue sarcoma patient is planned for proton mini-beam treatment. The mini-beams minimally damage the overlying healthy tissues while focusing on the tumor to provide uniform cancer cell killing. As you can imagine, from all of the technical and potential clinical advantages of the light system, we've had a lot of commercial interest. So I'm going to hand over to Moataz now to tell you about that.
Thank you, Jonathan. Before I talk about our commercial model, let me give you all a quick update on the recent commercial partnerships we announced. Our first system integration and commissioning will take place on the STFC campus in Daresbury, where we will complete our system verification and validation and first patient treatment in collaboration with Queen Elizabeth Hospital. The light system development is progressing extremely well, partnering with UHB for system and clinical validation. We are on our way to delivering first patient treatment. UHB is the largest regional center for non-surgical cancer treatment, and AVO has been selected by UHB to install a light system on their campus. Our partnership will adopt our revenue share business model, which I will explain in greater details later. We have also signed a partnership agreement with London Clinic for our groundbreaking Harley Street project in the heart of London's West End. Not your typical choice or location for a proton therapy center, but again, this clearly shows the advantages of using the AVO light system in a city center location or tightly packed hospital campus. Unlike any other proton therapy system, the Harley Street project is fitted into an existing 200-year-old townhouse basement. And just a few days ago, our partnership has been further expanded with the announcement that the Cleveland Clinic will now be able to refer cancer patients to the London Clinic. I would like to play a short video from Al Russell, CEO of London Clinic, who will tell us more about the reasons why advanced oncotherapy was the only choice for the London Clinic.
Hello, my name's Al Russell. I'm the Chief Executive of the London Clinic. The London Clinic is an independent charitable hospital. We employ 1,300 people. We have 600 consultants. We're located across 8 buildings. We have an intensive care unit, which is state-of-the-art. Last year, we saw 130,000 patients come through our doors. And we're a hospital that covers all the disciplines you'd expect of a hospital that looks after acute cases and complex surgery. Cancer is central to what we do. We have a state-of-the-art dedicated building called the Duchess of Devonshire Wing, which is 8 floors, has 2 Linacs accelerators, has a cyber knife in it as well. As a charity, we're tasked and responsible for advancing healthcare for the benefit of the wider community. And a part of that is an obligation and a desire to embrace innovation. And since I've been CEO in the last 3 years, we've encouraged collaborative working with partners and working with them without boundaries. And it's within that context that I'm here today. Proton beam therapy is a really exciting new treatment, but access has been limited due to costs and size of the equipment. Advanced Oncotherapy's light system reduces both size and cost and provides high success rate for patients. The new service on Harley Street adjoins our hospital next door to our famous Harley Street entrance. Our partnership with Advanced Oncotherapy will enable the London Clinic to help even more patients fight and survive cancer while furthering our charitable purpose of advancing healthcare. It is a very exciting innovation, and we are very excited about our future together.
The acquisition of a multi-room system by the Mediterranean Hospital in February 2020, including our long-term revenue share partnership model, is a key endorsement of our approach. Instead of me advocating our system, I would prefer if you hear the views of Andrea Spaniotto, the CEO of the hospital in Limassol, and in particular how light fits within his strategy for the hospital in Cyprus and the future of advanced cancer treatment modalities.
My name is Dr. Andreas Panagiotou. I graduated from the Westfälischen Wilhelms University in Münster, Germany. Worked for 14 years in German hospital as a trauma surgeon, and I have been working at the Mediterranean Hospital of Limassol since 2004. The Mediterranean Hospital of Limassol has been at the forefront of Cyprus' landmark General Health Scheme, the equivalent of the NHS in the UK, which a majority of private hospitals have seen joined. Cyprus is ideally positioned to become a place of excellence for medical tourism. In this view, the ability to provide proton therapy treatments through light is a critical factor at the Mediterranean Hospital of Limassol. It's particularly excited to have pursued a full 3-room system. We strive to not only establish Cyprus as a medical hub for the region, but also assist in continually improving public healthcare services. When you spend a lot of time comparing the various systems, as we have done, the choice was obvious, as we will see how light will completely change how patients get treated. I look forward to showing our hospital when you visit our beautiful island. Yassas.
With these recently announced commercial agreements, my 14 years experience within the global proton therapy market, I only see the huge commercial opportunity in front of us. The question is therefore, how do we influence the decision-making process for customers? The proton therapy market has been growing and will continue to grow, and we are set to capitalize on this growth by addressing our customers' unmet needs. We offer a suite of services which support our customers today, tomorrow, and in the future. These include turnkey offering, vendor financing solutions, support for proton therapy coverage and reimbursement, all with the view to expanding proton therapy treatment adoption and achieving our goal of democratizing proton therapy for all. The light system will allow for faster installation, commissioning, and accelerated patient throughput. When compared to other products on the market, the AVO light system offers a significant overall reduction in cost per patient, leading to major improvement in the center's profitability and patients' access to proton therapy treatment. We currently offer a differentiated commercial and business model that includes a turnkey solution that offers project financing, project management, and equipment leasing. The revenue streams include traditional equipment sale, long-term operational maintenance, technology upgrades, and revenue sharing through a pay-per-patient model, further acting as a catalyst for continued market growth. 3 transactions announced in February, all with revenue sharing arrangements, confirms that the market is responding positively to these solutions. Nicholas is now going to cover the execution and delivery aspects of our projects. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mu'taz. What I would like to do in this final section is to explain how we execute our strategy, how we team up with the partners, and what does that mean both financially and socially. We have a very clear mission, and it's to democratize proton therapy. But the challenge here is how to do that when you have different stakeholders who have different objectives. We have identified a way forward, and that's what I'm going to show on the next slide. The first stakeholders are our suppliers. Without them, of course, we won't have a machine because we outsource the production of components of lights. So we're essentially assembling the various parts on an assembly site, and we do so by following the medical standards such as ISO 13485. A lot of time was spent on selecting our suppliers, and together we are all focused on delivering a pipeline, not just making the first machine. That means we identified cost reduction opportunities of about 40 to 50% by either optimizing the future design of the machines or leveraging relationships with the suppliers. This includes VDL, who is not only supplying accelerating structures, but also helping us fund some working capital requirements. So here you can see some of the activity at the assembly site in Daresbury. We have received all the high precision components for the machine and many of the subsystems. But as I said, we're not just focused on the first machine. We have to make sure we can deliver many more machines going forward. And that's why we built all the infrastructure for the conditioning and the testing, which will accelerate the pace at which we deliver a pipeline. Now, if we turn to customers as another stakeholder, we want to show that the expected returns for them are very attractive. A centre using our technology is expected to generate £12 million of revenues and £7 million of profits for one-room system over 3 years. And of course, you multiply this if you have multi-room systems. That's based on a number of assumptions which you can see on the left-hand side of the page. But the most important ones are the price per treatment, which we assume at £40,000 on average, and a throughput of 300 patients per year. So the question is really how to balance the return between AVO and our customers. Today, Light brings many financial and medical benefits, as we have seen throughout today's presentation. But we don't want to charge a premium for this in light of our missions, which is to democratize proton therapy. So that means 3 things for a customer. 1, having the latest technology is actually a way to attract more patients. 2, the throughput of patients and payback will also be improved through a pricing strategy, but also because we're helping to reduce the operating cost across the value chain. And 3, and that's something that is truly unique, our machine is modular and it can be used as a security in a financing deal, unlike the large system which exists today and which have to be buried at many levels below the ground. This means that for the first time, systems like Light can be part of leasing arrangements at attractive terms. And that's great progress for customers. In the future, and as Jonathan mentioned, we have clear opportunity to upgrade our systems to treat patients better and even more quickly. It will be easy to charge a premium for future upgrades, but our strategy is once more to remain competitive and not to penalize early adopters of the technology. That's why we want to align our interest with those of our customers, and that can be done through profit sharing, whereby AVO will take a share of the profit of a center in addition to selling the machine. And of course, it will be up to the customers to decide whether they prefer a different financing approach. Now, if we are looking at the numbers, what does that mean? Here we assume an illustrative scenario whereby we sell 10 machines per year over 10 years at between, say, 30 to 50 million pounds per machine. That means by year 10, we would have a revenue of somewhere between 800 to 1.8 billion pounds, of which only 1/3 relates to the sales of the machines, and the rest is long-term cash flows through maintenance and profit sharing. From a profit perspective, the numbers I just gave you will be equivalent to about 350 million up to 1.2 billion pounds in year 10. We are now getting closer to the end of this presentation, so I would like to talk about our deliverables for next year. It's difficult to summarize what lies ahead without referring to the COVID situation. And as previously announced, our activity has been impacted by COVID. For example, the assembly site was closed for roughly 3 months. We had severe limitations, and we continue having restrictions, the latest one being the quarantine measures imposed on some people traveling to the UK. But despite these headwinds, we've made great progress, and we now have all the key high-precision components which are parts of the accelerator. These are very important because these components are the heart of a machine. We have largely built the infrastructure that will support not just the assembly of the first machine, but also the assembly of future machines. We have and continue to receive components which support the accelerator and which are, by and large, off-the-shelf components. In 2021, we expect to meet the deliverables which are listed on this page. I won't go through them one by one, but from our perspective, the most important one is when the machine is expected to be fully operational and have a 230 MeV beam, which is what we need to treat our first patients. This is the most important deliverables for 2 reasons. 1, the technology will be technically fully validated, and this will be a key step for getting certification. And 2, proton therapy is actually the only medtech sector which benefits from an exemption. That means that we can sell machines even if we don't have a certification in place. So having a machine which is fully operational is expected to accelerate our pipeline in a very tangible way. So before we conclude, we have met many investors and we have been asked why talents from competitions, whether it's from Varian, IBA or Elekta, have joined AVO. Why has VDL as a leading supplier agreed to provide a working capital facility to us? Why are prestigious organizations such as the London Clinic or the Cleveland Clinic part of a project? Why can we benefit from product sale and at the same time get a share of the future profit from customers? The answers are on the right, and it's about a story, the market, a standards. But if we really want to make a difference and do good and well, we need to have a business model that allows us to extract significant value in the long term, and that is what we have tried to convey today. This concludes our presentation. I hope you have heard today how people are truly passionate about what they do at AVO. That passion is because we all know that proton therapy as a cancer modality exists and is well proven, but its use is currently limited to a minority of people, largely because of cost. We are all convinced that if we want to reduce cost, it has to start with a new engine, and we should not use an engine designed decades ago. And on that note, we are every day very mindful and grateful for all the work done at CERN and ADAM. And finally, we are truly passionate and excited because we are very close to getting a product on the market. And I would like to thank everybody for listening to this presentation, and I want to also thank my colleagues for sharing their views. And we are now going to answer questions which have been raised before and during this presentation.